The problem was that impression was still there. It wasn't going away. I knew where it came from. No, it's actually been a long journey. It actually began in 2010, and I was dating a guy, and he had gone through some of the same experiences I had, some challenges in life, and I had gotten through those through choosing to read some scriptures and talks and listen to music and things like that, and I could see his challenge, and so I had this thought to go get like a little box, some plastic toolkit is what I wanted to do, and put all the things that helped me in it at that time and give that to him as a gift. So I went and bought a little plastic kit and bought scripture markers and highlighters and put in my favorite talks and CDs and some music, and I was down in my mom's basement and I was just putting this all together in this little box, and just about the time I went to close the lid, I heard the words very clearly, "Make a prayer mat." And my reaction was, what is that? I don't even know what that is. So I all of a sudden had this download of prayer words like pray and peace and please forgive and please help and please bless and dear Heavenly Father and all these words. And so I grabbed a pencil and a little sticky note and I just wrote them down there as fast as I could. And that was kind of part of that whole experience. And I finished putting it together and then went upstairs, and my mom was upstairs, and I said, "Mom, I just had the craziest experience." I said, "I'm supposed to make a prayer mat." And she said, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't even know what that means." And so I went to her drawer and I pulled out like a placemat. And I was thinking, can I write something on here or use those gel pens or something? And I'm not artistic. I don't draw, and so that just wasn't going to work. And so I just went on about the process of doing what I was giving him, what I was going to give him. And that day he came over and I gave it to him, and he really liked it. And then that kind of went by the wayside. And the problem was that impression was still there. It wasn't going away. I knew where it came from. And so I would go to Walmart and I would pull out like a bath mat and I would look at it and I think, how can I put something on this mat? And how would I get them printed, you know? And I had a friend that I had met named Tony, and I remember he and I went to the store one day and I'm like, "Tony, I gotta tell you something. I haven't told anybody about my mother. I'm supposed to make prayer mats." And he's like, "Well, let's figure out how to do this." And we did the same thing. We went to Kmart, pulled out a mat, looked at it, but I never was able to figure out how to do it. And so time went on and life was just hard and busy. I got a new job, and as I would just periodically, this impression would come back to me that I needed to make prayer mats. And I literally said, "I don't know how to do that. Give me something else, because I don't know how to do that." And then I thought to myself, he has given you something. You need to figure out how to do this. So after a couple of years, I started working in the temple. And I had met one of the young men that was a worker up there online, and we became friends, and I went to work in there, and there he was, and I knew he was a graphic designer. And I caught him one night and I said, "I am supposed to make prayer mats and I don't know how. You're a graphic designer, aren't you?" And he said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Can you help me?" And he said, "Yeah, let's go to lunch and talk about it." So we went to lunch and we talked about maybe how big we wanted them and what would I want on them. And I didn't know for sure what I wanted. And he said, "Well, we'll get together and do this again." Well, then a year went by and nothing happened. In the meantime, I had started a new job, and then 6 months into that job, I got laid off and I was without work. And at that point, I was on unemployment and I was doing a lot of praying, and the impression was coming back even stronger at that time. And I thought, well, maybe because I'm off work, this is the time to do it. So I caught him again one night in the temple, and I said, "Kyle, I'm supposed to make prayer mats, and I don't know what I'm doing." And he's like, "Well, let's go to lunch." So we went to lunch, and we sat down and figured out sizes, and he said to me, "What do you want on it?" And I said, "You know, for the first one, I just want something simple for little kids." I said, "I just want it to say pray, and I want heaven and earth to come together." I said, "I just want something that it doesn't matter whether they're a year or 10 years. If they see that, they know that it means pray." And so he did a design, and I loved it. I was so excited because it was really the first thing I had from years. I mean, I've been talking like 3 or 4 years from that first impression to get to this point. And so we did a little bit of critiquing on it, and then I was at the point of, where do I get these printed? How do I do this? And I had a friend that's brother was into printing, and he said, you could go up to a place in Kaysville and they can, you know, maybe help you with that. So I went up there and showed them what I had, and they said, sure, we can help you. And so they printed me a demo mat, but they were like $15 for one. And I was like, wow, that's gonna be really hard to sell, you know. But at least I had something. I was getting somewhere. And then as time went on, my friend that was helping me said, I can't help you anymore. I'm starting a new business or something. And so I didn't have anyone else to design for me, but a friend that I had met one night said, you know, there's someone in my ward that's daughter designs some invitations, and she'd probably do it for you. And so I called her up and met with her, and I told her my story, and she took the little sticky note from my experience of that download of spiritual words or prayer words and put it on a mat, and it was beautiful. And I also asked her to design me a logo, and kind of told her what I wanted, and she did the logo. And so then I had some designs. Now I had to figure out how I was going to put that into a product. Yeah. And at this time, you know, I finally got a job back, but I had no money. And this is like 2 years ago now, so this is 5 years later, 6 years later from that point. And I had happened to meet a friend online in Tennessee like 8 years ago, or 7 years ago. And we just were friends. I've still never met him. But I had been praying that I could figure out how I was going to get these mats printed, and where I was going to get them printed and how to do it. And I remember driving to work one day, and I just started to cry, and I said, Heavenly Father, you taught Nephi how to build a ship. You've got to teach me how to do this. I don't have the money to print mats, and in order to be able to print them, you have to do multiple, and I don't have the money to do something like that. And so a couple days later, I went to my mailbox, and I happened to have mentioned to my friend in Nashville that I was trying to do this. And when I went to my mailbox, I opened it up, and there was a box in there with $2,000 and a letter that said, make little prayer mats for the angels of the world. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this now. I can make these. Yeah, finally had the money to set up my business, and started doing that. And in the meantime, I was trying to figure out where to get them printed. And I didn't want to just print 5. I mean, I had actually printed demo ones and given them to my grandkids for Christmas. But I didn't have the numbers that I wanted, and I felt like I was supposed to be printing a lot and getting them out there. And so through a friend that had a business, she got me into selling these air fresheners. And I told her, I'm not supposed to sell these air fresheners. I'll do it, but I'm supposed to be working and putting my efforts into these prayer mats. And she had known about it because I told her about them years ago. And so there was another friend that was also our friend that was in that business, and I happened to go to a meeting one night, and I told her about my mats. And she's like, let me take this to our people and let them see, because this is what they do. And I said, oh, okay. And so she took the picture of my mat to Ensign Group International and said that she wants to make prayer mats and she needs them in mass amounts. And so they contacted me by email and said, let's meet. So we went down in Salt Lake and we met for lunch, and they saw what I had and they were excited, and they said, we can make your dreams come true. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And they said, no, we can. And so I sent them my images, and they sent them on and ordered my first 100 mats, and I got them in December of 2016. And I sold, probably in that first month, I probably sold about 60 of them just to friends and family and people that I worked with. And then my second shipment came in, I think it was February of 2017. I got 1,000 mats. And in this, between now and then, I've sold about probably 600 just by word of mouth and friends, and some different boutiques and stuff that I've gone into. So there's just so many little miracles in this story, actually, to how it all came about, that I know that it was supposed to happen and that it was supposed to be done. And so now I'm just working on trying to get them out there, because they're supposed to be out there. people that said my kids won't pray without them. I have people that they've done things like put them in their living room in like a magazine rack, and when it's prayer time, they all go grab their mat and bring it in and kneel on it for their family prayer. I've sent them to they've gone out to missionaries, and I had a missionary say, do you know what I would have done for one of these on my mission? I've sold them for baptism gifts towards young women's programs, non-denominational churches, prayers for everybody. And so I tried to design them so that it would work for everyone. It's just been a real beautiful experience to have this come to me. And I have said many times, why did he give this to me? Because I'm not artistic, and I don't do these things. And that's probably why it's been such a testimony to me, is because I don't do these things, and yet he gave this to me. I feel very blessed that I've had this opportunity to create these.